The new iPad is here. This is it, the iPad Air. You know, I'm going to have to take it out. How locked in is it? Turn it? Turn it to unlock it? Like that?
Well, whichever way goes loose.
Whichever way goes loose.
The other way.
Any which way but loose.
It's been locked in by Jammer B.
Oh, you mean I have to unscrew it?
No,
Now it's, oh, I see. It's not. Okay, well, it's a really. Here it is. It's a really lightweight iPad. For the first time, it's about a pound. That's almost, it's 0.4 pounds less
Almost nothing.
than the iPad 4. It's also narrower, and for the first time, I've been able to use the iPad in portrait mode and type with my thumbs, which is it came to me very naturally and intuitively. I found myself in the first few minutes of using this starting to type with my thumbs like this, which is pretty amazing. It is noticeably lighter, although still at a pound. It's in there with the Kindle Fire HDX and other tablets of its ilk. Screen, of course, as with all iPads, very good. And you will notice one of the things that Apple has been touting, this A7 chip. Apple says it's twice as fast. Benchmarks say about 80% as fast. It's definitely, noticeably faster. Even when you just do the Apple swoop in and out in iOS 7, you could tell it's much smoother, much more fluid, and much faster. So it's a very nice incremental upgrade to the existing iPads. Prices are the same. The Wi-Fi 16 gig version starts at $499. Add $100 to double the RAM, all the way up to 128 gigs. $129 will put LTE in there from all the carriers. Even T-Mobile now has an iPad. So you configure it the way you feel like. I have to say, all in all, space gray and silver. It used to be black and white. Space gray and silver. That's the other change. You can, by the way, if you get the cellular version with 128 gigs, you can hit almost $1,000 for this iPad. The question, though, for a lot of people is, who should upgrade to the newest iPad? Certainly, if you don't have an iPad at all, this is the one that you probably want. The only other choice isn't out yet, and that'll be out later this month, probably November 29th, Black Friday. That's the iPad Mini with Retina. Exactly the same spec-wise, just in a 7.9-inch screen. That's really the choice if you're new to iPad. Get the new ones, you know? On the other hand, if you have an iPad, let's say, 3rd generation, or certainly if you have an iPad 4th generation, you might reasonably say, I don't think it's a big enough improvement for me to run out. iPad 4th generation, the last iPad, you really have to be an iPad fanatic to get the latest and greatest. Unless you can find, a relative to give the old one to and be happy about that. iPad 3rd generation was fairly slow. It was the first with Retina display. Maybe you'd see a big improvement here. If you've got an iPad 1 or 2, what are you waiting for? Pros and cons. Definitely thinner, shallower, although they did a lot just to shrink 1.5 millimeters off the width. I don't notice that too much. I really do notice it's narrower and it is definitely lighter. You'll notice that. Also, stereo speakers on the bottom. It's Lightning, of course, as all the new iPads will be from here on out, until Apple invents another proprietary technology. So the pros: a good screen, good weight, good feel. It's light. You can finally type with 2 hands. Some people, not me, but some people with really big hands can hold this in one hand. Try that, Robert. Just see. Because I guess I have very small hands. I don't seem to be able to hold it. Oh, look at that. Easy for you.
I could probably put it in my pocket.
Shannon, let's see if you can hold it in one hand.
Let's see.
Not so much with this. No.
No. See,
No.
Oh,
I think
close.
I'm not even close. Do I have small hands? I must have small hands.
I think, yeah.
So you have.
I can type with my thumbs, though.
Yeah, and to me, that's more important than whether you can
That's
hold it
very
with one hand.
important.
If you want a one-handed iPad, you should get the Mini. Cons, it's just, an incremental improvement. It's evolutionary, not revolutionary. I think the iPad is a significant product. Obviously, it's a significant product. I do a show called iPad Today. I love the iPad, but I'm not sure you should run right out. I can't give it a buy. If you have a very old iPad or no iPad at all and you want to get into the Apple ecosystem, well, then it's a buy. But for the rest of you, you should probably try it and see if it makes enough of a difference compared to your existing iPad to fork out $499.
How's the camera?
The camera's a slight improvement. It has optical image stabilization. I think that's the first iPad camera to have that. That means it'll work better in low light. You know, the camera isn't, you know, it's what is it, 8 megapixels? It's not yet as high megapixel as some of the other options out there. But Apple does the best software for cameras, and I don't know what the magic is that they weave, but it's like the iPhone, even like the previous iPad. It's a very, very good camera. But please, folks, don't use it as a camera. That's really dumb. Okay, that's why I don't really want to recommend it as a camera.
I'm curious because I use FaceTime with my iPad.
Oh, that's different now. You're gonna be using the front-facing camera.
Yeah.
And I think there's a minor improvement in the front-facing camera as well. Not a huge improvement. Yeah, if you use it for this is a perfect FaceTime implementation. Sure.
I was in the Louvre not too long ago, and I saw a tour group with 20 people holding up iPads to take pictures.
Well, and
It's
that's
not a
what
good
I'm
scene.
saying. I
It's
don't
not
want
a
to
good
see
scene.
that. I understand, especially if you're doing movies. You know, the i7, the new iOS 7 has some really nice camera features. And I think if you're doing movies, the idea that you have a giant viewfinder like this really has some value to it. But it's very annoying. If you're going to take pictures, use the Mini or something. I mean, don't hold that up in the Louvre. Nobody can see around you. And
Yeah,
if
I
you're
think
at a
it's kinda
wedding
rude.
or a concert, don't.
Oh,
So when you ask me, yes, it's a great camera. It's a very good camera, but I hate to recommend using this for the camera. The FaceTime camera, there it is, 1.2 megapixels, 720p. I
Okay.
think that's the same as the previous iPad, actually.
Yeah.
5 megapixel camera. Thank you for the correction. 5 megapixel camera, not 8. It's the iPhone that has 8. But they do a lot with those 5 megapixels.
Yeah.
Try on the iPad Air. I do like the name. Good name.
yep. Branding.
Lighter.
Branding.
Doesn't exactly float away, but it's lighter.
This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at the latest iPad, the iPad Air, a 10-inch tablet or 9.7-inch that's actually gotten a lot smaller and lighter. Witness the fact I can hold it with one hand. We're going to look at it now. So this is Apple's latest generation iPad, the 5th generation iPad, though it's not called the iPad 5, it's called the iPad Air. Yep, they're mixing the names from different product lines, and it makes us wonder if there's going to be an iPad Pro somewhere in the future, but what's different about it? The first thing you're going to notice, look how narrow the bezels have gotten. The last generation iPad, all previous generation iPads had pretty roomy bezels, and I'll show you the difference right here. Here's the iPad with Retina display. Look at the size of the bezel there, right? Compare it to this. Design language is obviously a lot like the iPad mini, and that carries around to the back of the product too. Take a look. We've got the space gray model here. It's also available in silver with a white front. Again, it looks a lot like the iPad mini, and that's a good thing because this is a more svelte, modern design, and you can see how thin it's gotten too. Right here we have our stereo speakers, the lightning port at the bottom. Controls are really where you'd expect them to be on an iPad. Apple doesn't mess with that too much. We have our volume controls right here. Slider over here can either handle screen rotation, lock, or silent mode if you want to use it for that, and the power button is up top. 3.5 millimeter combo audio jack up top here. Camera on the back, 5 megapixel improved camera. And we have a front camera as well above the display. Now look at the difference in thickness. You can see it here, and footprint. It's gotten even thinner. And notice how it's smaller too, since the bezels have been reduced. In this direction right here, it's obviously smaller as well. And it only weighs 1 pound. The old one was almost 1.5 pounds, making it a heavy 10-inch tablet. And it really was starting to feel like a burden compared to all the Android tablets on the market that were getting lighter and lighter. So we're really glad to see Apple once again reset the register, so to speak, and bring us a 1 pound 10-inch tablet. And that doesn't mean that they cut back on quality either. You still have the lovely glass in the front, the metal on the back. High-class looking product. That much easier to hold and handle and enjoy. So you're reading a book, you're not going to be like, God, this is getting heavy. No, not anymore. Tablet's running iOS 7, as you would expect, just like the new iPhone 5S and iPhone 5C, Apple's latest operating system with a more minimalist-looking design. No more skeuomorphism, your calendar doesn't look like a paper calendar anymore, and so on. Fast, responsive, has Apple A7 CPU, just like the iPhone 5S, which is an extremely fast CPU. It's a dual-core CPU. You don't always need quad-core, because this one does as well in benchmarks as a lot of competing quad-core. And it has Power VR SGX graphics inside. Very fast on benchmarks, and we'll take a look at Geekbench 3 and see what it says. And there's our result, which is putting it at the top of the heap among all tablets that you can run Geekbench on, which means Android tablets right now and iOS tablets. And this is a little bit faster even than the iPhone 5S, which is not surprising because the tablets usually are. They have a little more room for thermal dissipation, so they can be run a little bit faster without the product getting too hot. Clock speed, Apple's keeping us in the dark about that. The iPhone 5S is 1.3 gigahertz. I would expect that this is at least that, if not more. For our SunSpider JavaScript test, you can see the result right here. 380.7 milliseconds, very fast. Getting as fast as some Windows machines, in fact, for rendering JavaScript inside a web browser. Programs, of course, launch quickly, and we're going to take a look at some games because those are generally the most demanding of the tablet to see how they play. This is a 64-bit CPU. Right now, there's not a whole lot of 64-bit software out there, but in the future, we expect to see that. Will that make a huge performance improvement? I don't know so much, but it's going to allow it to address more RAM in the future, which is an interesting prospect. iOS typically doesn't consume a whole lot of RAM. The operating system is very streamlined, and so are the applications that run on top of it. In terms of software with this guy, besides iOS 7, you also get the iLife and iWork suite for free. They're available as free downloads. That means GarageBand, iPhoto, iMovie, iWork, which is Pages, Keynote, and the spreadsheet that Apple makes. Not bad, certainly, to be included with the tablet. And it's interesting that they're addressing what Microsoft's been doing with some of their lower-priced tablets, typically running Atom or Windows RT, been bundling Office inside too. So Apple's keeping competitive doing that. Just like the iPhone 5S, the cameras have been improved with sensors that have larger pixel size, and you can see we have a 5-megapixel camera on the rear, and we're focusing on our little bath toy back here. HDR mode on and off. Simple UI is always typical of Apple. Your camera switching option right there. There's your shutter button. Tap to focus over here, and you can choose between photo, video, and square photo mode over here, just by sliding between them. And we're going to stick with photo. Can focus pretty close. That bath toy is pretty close. Quick picture taking. You know how tablet cameras go. They're very rarely fantastic, but this isn't bad at all. Good color, actually, and pretty sharp detail. Probably be pleasing enough to most folks. And if we switch to video mode, take an exciting picture of our bath toy going across the screen right there. And play that. There it is, 1080p video. Front camera is also improved, 1.2 megapixel for photos, 720p video. Bigger pixels means more light, means you look better when you're doing FaceTime or Skype video chat. Rear camera on our tablet has autofocus, face detection, backside illumination, a 5-element lens, f2.4 aperture, so pretty wide, pretty good for letting in low light. The front camera has face detection as well and a backside illuminated sensor also. Geotagging is optional. If you want to turn that on, you can turn that on. As ever, this has a Retina display, 9.7 inches. That's a resolution of 2048 by 1536. That's 264 ppi for those of you who keep track of such things. So one of the sharper, prettier, more color-accurate displays on the market among tablets. Now, granted, there are tablets with even higher resolution, starting with the Nexus 10, but still, it's just hard to beat the iPad display. And even the Samsung Galaxy Note 10.1, the 2014 edition, also has higher resolution, slightly larger display, so pixel density is not quite equivalent in comparison there, but still, color accuracy here, really good. Obviously, there's some glare, there's some reflection. You can see it on the bezel right there. You can see our camera flopping back and forth. It is a glossy display, supposedly fingerprint resistant. And we've got the Metropolitan Museum HD art app up here, so we can see some pretty pictures and see how they look. And the detail is just lovely on these, and it's downloading these off the web right now. And the color accuracy, if you're familiar with these works of art, is very good. You can see pointillism real up close by zooming in here. It's just a lovely, lovely display as ever. Something that you would expect from an iPad, and you're getting it here. Viewing angles are also wide. IPS display, other than the glare it's going to pick up by moving it around. Nice and wide. The tablet's available with LTE 4G and Wi-Fi. That also has 3G as well for those of you who only have 3G in your area, or just as Wi-Fi tablet. Tablet has Wi-Fi 802.11bg and dual band with MIMO. No AC on this. Tablet also has Bluetooth 4.0, and if you get the versions that have LTE 4G and 3G, you'll also get a GPS. Otherwise, you'll get Wi-Fi triangulation with the Wi-Fi only model. Wi-Fi only 16 gig model starts at $499, same price as ever for the iPad, and $629 for the LTE model, available on all U.S. carriers. You can go up in capacity and price as well if you want, of course, with this, and the highest you can get is 128 gigs. That's going to be $799 Wi-Fi only, and a whopping $929 for the 4G LTE model. Tablet is 0.29 inches thick, and it has the same M7 Motion coprocessor that the iPhone 5S has. Now, in the iPhone, that makes a whole lot of sense for perhaps health use, that kind of thing, pedometer, tracking your exercise. In an iPad, I don't know how useful it's going to be. We'll have to see what developers come up with. Despite rumors, this does not have a fingerprint sensor. Our home button is just that, just a standard home button right here. Now, the outgoing iPad 4 iPad with Retina display was certainly not slow by any means, though this one is even faster. And we're going to try it a couple of games, because that's just about the most taxing thing you can do with a tablet. So we're testing out the new Dead Trigger 2 game, and you can hear how the speakers are doing as well. Certainly fluid and fast. Nice graphics in this game, too. Very, very responsive.
Hey, repair that barricade and I'll let you in.
So the game plays just fine. And Dead Trigger 2 has shooting for dummies here. You just face the right direction and it shoots for you now.
Hell yeah!
So it plays beautifully, nice graphics. It's all good. As ever, the iPad remains a premier gaming device. Awesome game selection of Tier 1 games. And now we're trying out Nova 3, which is also graphically very impressive and demanding game.
Just crash landed from off-world. What the hell are Volturites doing on Earth?
Plays beautifully, very smooth. Looking around the environment, works just fine. Excellent experience. So that's Nova 3 on the iPad Air. As ever, one of the selling points for the iPad is the app selection, particularly applications that have been optimized for the tablet here. You even have Amazon Instant Video for your Prime members and non-Prime members. Oddly, something that's still lacking from Android tablets. Don't know why Amazon doesn't want to do that. Now, with Android tablets, the Tier 1 apps are generally optimized. There were a few exceptions, like Twitter took forever to be optimized for big screens, but you'll find a larger selection of games and applications in general still available for the iPad. And of course, the staples are here too. We've got our iBooks application. As ever, it's lovely sharp display, so it's very good for reading. We do keep the skeuomorphism here. It looks like a printed book, complete with the page flipping, and you can do this in portrait and in landscape mode. A little bit easier to read and follow the lines, obviously, if you're using it in facing page mode. Web browsing is same as ever on the iPad, which is, say, fast and pretty reliable, good rendering. Looking at our own site, Mobile Tech Review. Support for HTML5 video, not Adobe Flash Player, which is quick disappearing from mobiles. And we'll play. Video for you here of the 13-inch MacBook Pro. This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at what's going to be one of the hotter notebooks probably for the year. This is the late 2013 edition Mac. So as ever, you get the idea. Really, This has all the features of the iPad with Retina display, the iPad 4. It's just in a thinner and lighter package. We won't go over every feature because pretty much you're looking at the same solid stuff that the last iPad had, just more compelling in a lighter package. Again, better for competing with Android tablets that have been getting thinner and lighter. Interestingly, though this got almost a half a pound lighter and much thinner, battery life hasn't suffered. Apple claims that's because the A7 CPU is so power efficient, and goodness only knows, but it's got a 32.4 watt hour rechargeable lithium ion inside, obviously sealed inside, and they claim it's good for the same 10 hours as the outgoing iPad. And so far in our tests, that has been true. That's with Wi-Fi on and active and in a mix of use, including some video streaming, HD playback, using it for iWork, doing email, surfing the web, playing some music, a mix of use. Very good battery life given the size and weight of the product. So that's the iPad Air. It's available now. Same pricing as all the previous generation iPads were when they first came out, and definitely Apple's best iPad later. That's easy to say, but this time they really did what the doctor ordered. How are you going to make a tablet better these days? Take it from being a little chunky, monkey, heavy tablet and make it the thinnest, lightest tablet on the market. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full written review, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.